MDRT is made up of thousands of amazing members, and every MDRT meeting not only provides us with excellent speakers, but brilliant entertainment. You may be surprised to know that the band you've been listening to today is made up solely of MDRT members. Let me welcome them individually. 26-year MDRT member, Stephen Plewis. 21-year MDRT member, Robert Gawthrop. 24-year MDRT member, 14-year member, Greg Gagney.
Anybody?
24-year MDRT member, Jesse Rivera. And an even bigger welcome for our 4-year MDRT member, Taylor Sledge.
Don't do that.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Roundabout. Let's get started. I want each of you to just quickly tell our friends here today a little about yourself, a little about your practice. Where are you from?
Okay, my name's Taylor Sledge. I'm from Jackson, Mississippi. It's almost as hot there as it is here. I have a business and estate planning practice. We've got a 4 on our team and try to get a lot done down there.
Jesse.
I'm from Tacoma, Washington, which is about 30 miles south of Seattle. I've got a great practice. I've got a staff of 1, and she's everything to me. It's been a great career for me for the past...
Greg, share with us.
I'm from New Hampshire in the United States, and my practice has 4 employees, and great to be here.
Rob?
I'm Rob Gawthrop, and I'm from Vancouver, Canada. Thank you. You can applaud. It's all right. Canadian. I just celebrated my 31st wedding anniversary with my beautiful wife, who's here with me today. And in my practice, I do insurance and investment planning, and I have my eldest daughter working for me.
Great. And Steve?
I am from Eastern Shore of Maryland. We live on the Chesapeake Bay, and it's about 2 hours east of Washington, D.C. And I have an individual practice. My office resides on the Cloud.
Okay. And staff?
I have 2 staff.
Okay. So great diversity amongst the members here today. I want you all to tell me how you got introduced to MDRT. Greg, so let's start with you.
My journey to MDRT was not a linear journey, Caroline. I started in the business in 1992, and it took me a few years before a few colleagues and mentors in my life came along and told me about this thing called MDRT, which I really didn't even know what it was, but they told me, this is a place that you need to be. I struggled, and through some luck as well as hard work, I was able to qualify for my first roundtable meeting.
Right. Rob?
I was introduced to a fellow in Vancouver who became my mentor. His name is Carl. And when I met him, he said to me, your first goal should be that you need to qualify to go to MDRT. And I didn't know what that was, and he explained it. And then he said, your second goal should be that once you qualify, you need to go to the meeting. Because by going to the meeting, you will continue to rise and grow in your career.
So for you, the meeting was the important part?
Yes.
Okay. Jesse?
Well, the guy that brought me into the business, his name is Tom, always emphasized that I need to be a member of the $1 Million Round Table. And I took it to heart, and I actually qualified in my first year in the business.
Fantastic. Was it as easy as that for you?
Well, I wouldn't say it was easy, but I would say being intentional about it was the biggest thing. I was lucky enough early on to be told that $1 Million Roundtable is kind of the gold standard for financial success in this industry. And I was also lucky enough to be educated that you need to write an annual business plan and really work it and follow it. And so MDRT was the desire, but no control over that. My goal was 2 appointments a day. And it's amazing what happens if you apply when you work a plan. So,
Steve.
Well, in 1985, our agency manager was invited to a meeting as a guest. And when he came back, he decided that all the agents in the office were going to qualify for MDRT. And thankfully he did. And we've just focused on that. I've made it every year. I've got 26 years as my 26th year qualification. So it's the best thing that ever happened to me.
Now, before these questions get too deep, I want a quick idea from each of you of one memorable thing that you can remember from going to your first meeting or going to a meeting. Jesse.
Well, last year, one of the things that really stood out to me was success is not owned. It's merely rented. And the rent is due every day.
Great line.
Yeah.
Great line. Taylor.
one of the things that I've really learned is really to figure out how you can build your company to focus on what you love. Build the people around you to focus on what you love and what you're passionate about. And learning that at MDRT has just been, it's been an unparalleled experience to realize that I can go and do something every day that I know that makes a difference, and I love it. And that was huge for me.
Steve, any memorable moments?
Well, I think the most memorable moment was when I learned what MDRT really stands for, and that is many days really tired. But seriously, folks, one of the things that I heard that was really kind of a game changer, because so much of our business is attitude. And Zig Ziglar had a great phrase that goes, it's your attitude, not your aptitude, that determines your altitude. And I've always remembered that. And my kids know it. They can recite it to me as well.
Great. Rob?
There's so many things that I've learned over the years, but one thing that I was trying to remember, most people love to hear themselves speak. And in sales, that's very common. And I remember hearing, I've heard it more than once, that we are given 2 ears and 1 mouth. And so when we're sitting in front of a client or a prospect, we need to listen a lot more than we speak. They don't care about what we know. They want to know that we care. And the way that we show how we care is by listening to what their needs are.
There's some great ideas coming here. Come on, Greg.
I've got one. This one is the one I've lived by. When I finally made my first roundtable meeting and qualified, I learned and realized that attending the meeting itself is quite a sacrifice. It costs an awful lot of money to get there. For most folks, it's a big journey. It's time away from family. But I'll put it this way. Not attending the meeting costs you 10 times more in revenues that you'll never see if you don't go. If you can qualify for this meeting, the annual meeting, you must attend.
Is that why you've been for every one of the last 15?
It's exactly why I've been for every one of the last 15. What's happened with me and my progression, and it wasn't linear to top of the table where I happen to hang out now. The first several years of my business, I called them under the table qualifier. And finally, when I started to figure this all out and realize that busy doesn't mean effective, you just need to work hard, but you need to work smart. I made round table, then quarter the table, and then top of the table. And it wasn't just because I could work faster and faster. It's because when I went to these meetings, I could learn from the greats how to short circuit making the mistakes I would have made, because they already made them, and they told me and taught me how not to make the same mistakes, which has amplified my production in my business.
That's great.
Yeah.
Now, Taylor, looking along this line, it's pretty obvious you're the baby in the group.
Oh, really? Yeah, I'm not quite as old as Rob's been married.
Oh my God. I'm sure we'd love to know, how did you make MDRT so quickly?
Well, I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to making sure that you create a plan, that you write a plan for your business each year, and that you maintain those everyday goals. For me, having a set goal for a whole week is something that's tough. It's something to overcome. Monday, you have this whole week ahead. I feel like breaking everything down into day-by-day commitments, one bite at a time, is really giving me the ability to create a business where we can make MDRT each year with our eyes closed, if you will. And it's because we know that there's only a certain thing we have to do, and that's see the people. And everything else just happens.
You know, my second meeting, I heard a line that's been so useful in my business, and it's that my clients need to know the time, not how the clock works. And what it's been for me is a great template that when I'm putting together very complex things, to try and keep it as simple as possible. Can you think of something that you've also picked up that's a simple idea, another one-liner? Who wants to go first with this one? Steve.
One that's been very helpful for me is that your confidence equals your competence. So if you do your homework and really know what it is you're talking about, you're going to be extremely confident when you're talking to people.
Okay. Greg?
Sure. Do what you say you're going to do. That's one of my principles that I live by. And it's the lack of following this that has caused so many of my own personal failures, and maybe some of you here in the room this afternoon. And what happens when we don't do what we say we're going to do is we end up with should've, would've, and could've, and ultimately regret. And one of the things that I would recommend, and that I try to do each day when I start my day off, is make a list of the things I'm going to do, make sure I'm actually executing those, so that I can be as effective as possible.
Anybody else?
I heard it yesterday up here. Somebody mentioned this, so it's, there's nothing new under the sun. A lot of these ideas have been around for a long time, but coming here, we get to hear them again and get reminded. But somebody yesterday said that if you want to explain a concept to somebody, you need to be able to explain it as if a 6-year-old could understand. And it's the same thing what you said, Caroline. And so what I try and do is when I'm explaining concepts to people, I try and explain it so that it's not that they're unintelligent, but if you can explain it to a 6-year-old and they understand it, then any of your clients and prospects should be able to get it.
I was just going to say that one thing I took away from a meeting early on that was fantastic, it's really simple, is spend a little time every day just being totally honest with yourself about what you're doing. Be totally honest with yourself. Did I really do what I was supposed to do today? Because I think you'll find that all of your problems lie in the fact that you probably didn't see enough folks.
And again, another great piece of advice is never stop doing what got you to MDRT in the first place. We've all learned great ideas and we've all thought, oh, I can move on now. Just make sure the production's done and it's in the bag before we do it. Okay. Steve, I understand making a to-do list is pretty high on your priority list.
Yeah, I mean, as Taylor was just saying, a to-do list seems like one of the most fundamental things you can do. But I find that if at the end of the day, I can just simply make a list of the 5 most important things that I need to do tomorrow. And I put them in the order of the most important thing because it's inevitable that at some point I'll get an interruption from a coworker or a family situation or just clients will call unexpectedly and I might lose my focus. So if all I ever get done is that number 1 item on the list, that if my day falls completely apart, I know that I have done the most important thing. And of course, if you're lucky enough to get through all 5 things, then you can call your list a to-done list, which is my favorite kind.
And Jesse, you're passionate about music, your membership in this whole business. Why is passion so important in your daily life?
Well, I believe that passion is really putting your whole heart, mind, body, and soul into something that you really, really believe in. And, I really take that word passion and I break it apart and I say, what's that P stand for? Could it stand for purpose, having the right purpose? Could it stand for having the right priorities? Could it stand for being persistent? And then we take that letter A. That letter A is very important to me because it's having the right attitude. Having that, and putting that attitude into action. So those are things that I really think about. Then we talk about the double S in passion. It's sincere effort, You know, it could be just being, well, sincerity is very, very important, and following through. Then we talk about the I. It's about having integrity. It's about, you know, just being there. The O's about maybe learning how to overcome obstacles, you know, and overcome objections. And the N is never stop dreaming. Never give up, and always live in the now.
Well, we saw your passion up on that stage this morning.
Thank you,
You were
Carol.
great. Rob, I'm sure Logan and the presentation yesterday must have resonated with you, because I understand you are a mentor to quite a lot of agents in your business.
Yes, I've always been one that likes to learn. And as I mentioned earlier, when Carl said I need to come to MDRT, he was convinced that this is the best place to learn in the world for people in our business. So I love learning, and I also, because of my musical background, have played in front of lots of crowds, and so I'm very comfortable speaking with people. So early in my career, I started doing presentations not just to clients but also to advisors. And Carl actually said to me, look, you should probably take these concepts and explain them to other advisors, because a lot of advisors don't necessarily know how to do that. And so I started doing that, and as a result, when I explain a concept to a group of advisors, inevitably some of those advisors would come to me and say, hey, can I come with you, or can you come with me, and can you show that to my client? And that has been, as a matter of fact, when I started doing that, I started doing a lot of collaborative and joint work with people. The first time I qualified for Court of the Table was as a direct result of doing joint work with other advisors.
Fantastic. I mean, we hear that doing joint work is a great way of building our knowledge, getting the experience in. It's something that I did in the early days. And Jesse, I believe you mentor a lot of aspirants.
Yes, absolutely. It's always been part of my business practice, and you know, I really believe in mentoring, because what you give comes back tenfold anyways, and it brings you to new markets. You know, what really, really matters to me is when I see an aspirant, you know, climbing the ladder of success. That really makes a difference to me, because I'd like to make a difference in other agents' lives.
Okay. Taylor, you've only been a member for 4 years. Tell us, what's the greatest benefit in being a member? Share with people here.
One phrase, absolutely, is learn from the greats. And at MDRT, we have this incredible opportunity to come here as a brand new member and spend time with the best of the best of the best, all in the same room. I think the best ideas in this whole industry are right here in this room, and the only barrier is lack of camaraderie. So if we can spend time together and learn from one another, that is absolutely fantastic opportunity. Piggybacking on the mentoring discussion, someone told me one time, paying to learn is good, but getting paid to learn is great. And that's what joint work really is. So learn from people here who are great, because in this room there are a lot of great people.
And might I add to that, Caroline, that we're learning so much today and yesterday as well from the speakers here on the main platform. But for me personally, my best learning actually happens outside of the meeting hall, and when I'm getting to socialize with other folks just like yourselves, and asking about your businesses and how you're successful and what you're doing to climb the ladder of success. And that's the sharing that hopefully we can all do over the next day or so, and grow together.
But if somebody's attending a meeting for the first time, how do they get into that situation of being able to talk to somebody and exchange ideas? I mean, they've shown up, they're on their own. How do you get into MDRT? Rob?
I have an example. Last year at the MDRT meeting in Philadelphia, I was at a function after the meeting, and one of the folks from Australia had brought a young aspirant, or a mentee, I guess, to this function. And he came up to me and he said, would you mind talking to this fellow? And so I think, you know, one of the ways is you have to put yourself out. But in this case, he came with somebody who was experienced, and they mentored him, and they said, hey, let me introduce you to this person. So he introduced him to me, and he had a question for me. He said, I'm just starting in the business, and I'm struggling with a few things. One, I feel like if I have to make it to MDRT, I got to work 7 days a week. And he says, I just got married. Do you have any advice for me? And of course, I think his concern was if he spends 7 days a week working to make it to MDRT, he might not be married for very long. So I said, look, you know, here's the thing. You can't work 7 days a week and still stay married, I don't think. So you might want to cut back on that. Well, then how am I going to make it to MDRT? Here's what you do. Go back to the person that introduced you to me. They're a top-of-the-table producer. Ask them who their best clients are, and maybe you know some people like that. And if you do, then introduce that person to your mentor and say, would you mind talking to this person? And I'm just going to come along and listen. And that's how you learn. And so, and people in MDRT, whether they're quarter of the table, top of the table, or just members, are more than happy to share their ideas, but also they'll take you along and teach you how to do this stuff.
There's no question. I mean, I just wanted to say that one of the early things I learned when I started attending MDRT was that it was most beneficial for me if I did not spend time with the people I already knew. You know, it was a tendency to go as a company or to go and look up people from your hometown and want to spend time with them. But that was a little safety net for me in the beginning. But ultimately, what I found out was I basically made a rule for myself was to never spend time with people that I already knew. So I would make a point to, even if it was just walking through a hotel lobby, if I saw some people sitting there, I would ask them if I could join them. And not only did I make a lot of great friends, but I learned a lot, and I had a different perspective. Because so many of those people were from out of the country, and they had fresh ideas, they were excited about the business, and that excitement rubbed off on me, and that was very helpful for me in my early career.
Greg?
Just quickly, I would say that if you really want to be able to socialize and interact with other folks, volunteer. Get involved. You see this week people wearing hats. Those people fast-track their social networking by getting involved. And as I think Jesse said, when you volunteer and you give, you always get back probably tenfold what you gave, coming back to you in a variety of different ways. So as you get tighter with the organization, consider getting involved by volunteering.
And particularly if you're showing up on your own, don't know anybody, great way to have a group
Excellent
of friends
way.
immediately.
Yep.
You know, Carolyn, the first thing that I noticed when I first made MDRT was that if you volunteer, you know, be a PGA volunteer, all the greats volunteer. So if you want to be with the greats, be a volunteer.
That's great of you.
Bravo. Thank you.
Greg, I understand some of your key ideas are called habits for success. Would you share with us?
Sure. The one that I'd like to share with you today echoes on Sarah Calbera's talk, which was about asking the right questions. And really what it is seek first to understand before being understood. It's a Stephen Covey principle. And I try to apply this in most of my meetings. And many of us, we're knowledgeable, and our thirst for knowledge is insatiable. And the first thing we want to do when we get in front of a prospect is tell them everything we know. And that is absolutely the wrong thing to do. Let's talk about the most important person in the room at a meeting, and that's the prospect themselves. And in order to do so, ask them lots and lots of questions. And once they've articulated their goals and their hopes and their dreams, then let them know what you know. And as Rob had eloquently said, try to do it on a 6th grade level in simple terms, and you will gain their confidence, their trust, and their business.
That's great. Jesse, we hear MDRT, and we know MDRT is more than just an annual meeting and an experience meeting. How do people access and share the resources of MDRT to take their business to the next level?
Well, actually, you know, if you just, first of all, I was talking about this earlier. When you volunteer, you know, that's accessing the resources right there. MDRT has a great site, you know, and it tells you everything about being a PGA volunteer. It tells you everything about being a mentor. So, you know, that's just one of the resources also. But I really believe that if you take full advantage and let it be a culture with your company, with everybody, that being an MDRT member and attending the meetings is mandatory. Let me tell you, it's going to work great wonders for everybody here.
I mean, one of the best resources I find is going back in the old meeting proceedings.
Right.
And if I'm having a bad day, I go into the video library and just watch a presentation that just bumps me up. Do you guys find time for that?
Yes, we do.
Absolutely. Sometimes you just have to because, I mean, what's great about it is it's such an easily accessible resource.
Yeah.
But I think, to Jesse's point, you know, part of MDRT is by going, you get to make so many connections. And so you have, the speaker mentioned it yesterday, the world's largest study group. And just by qualifying and attending an MDRT member, you have access to that 365 days a year.
But if I really can't afford to go, and we all know it's an investment, not a cost,
Right.
you would still say membership is worthwhile because of what I can access.
Sure,
Absolutely.
Resources.
Membership has its privileges.
Okay.
Okay, and one of those is that there's a fantastic website, and there's a number of resources on the website where you can access years of meetings and speakers. I mean, in our office in Vancouver, we have a huge library. A lot of it is populated with MDRT. I can remember when we used to get those really thick books of the proceedings. Remember those? They're about like this thick, and they're great paperwork. They're huge. Now, you can get it all on disc. You can go on the website. There's things you can download. So there's a ton of resources for members. So I encourage you to go on the website and look up some of the resources there.
I was just going to say that some of the best things I've ever learned came from John Savage, and he passed away before I was 10 years old. I mean, there are no new ideas. There are just fantastic communicators. And if I have a long drive, MDRT, CDs, ripped onto my iPod, I listen to them in my truck. I listen to John Savage every week probably.
And how do you prospect, Taylor?
Well, I have two basic types of prospecting that have really been most effective for me. One of them I call the board model. And what I mean by that is I have 10 to 12 people, and these don't necessarily have to be professionals. They don't even have to necessarily be financially successful. They have to be people that love you, know you, trust you, respect you, okay? And I spend time with at least one of these people every 2 weeks. I take them to lunch, and I treat them just as if they were a board member in my company. I tell them my issues, my problems, and I kind of ask them to make a vote. And after a period of time, they learn enough about our business that I don't even have to ask for referrals because the relationship has built an opportunity for a rich, powerful discussion. An ongoing relationship with those people and telling them you are important to what we do every day, it's irreplaceable. And the second is what I call indirect referrals. And that means that you just need to be involved socially or in an opportunity where you can be around others in your community that are movers and shakers, I like to call them. And that is really just being observant of someone that you want to meet and learning enough about them that you can make a powerful personal introduction just by yourself. And you never have to put anybody's name on the line. You never have to say, so-and-so told me to call you and I want to come sell you a mountain of insurance. You don't have to do that. You can just make a relationship with them on a personal level. So those are the two things that I primarily do that are extremely effective.
Everybody agree?
Absolutely. It's good.
The benefit for me this morning was getting to talk to these guys backstage. And Steve, you told me that your number one life skill is adaptability.
I think that's so true because our business changes so much. I mean, life is a constant series of changes. Believe it or not, when I first started in the business, no one had computers. I mean, no one used computers. It wasn't like you couldn't afford one. They didn't even have them yet. And it's, I carried a rate book door to door and knocked on doors and asked people if I could share an idea with them that was valuable to many people, such as themselves. And I think this audience may get this. I had to learn the subtle difference between the click of a 12-gauge shotgun and the click of a deadbolt. Because I would either get the door slammed or I'd hear the gun, But so you have to change, and products come and go. You change companies, regulations. I mean, it's constant change. So if you can learn to adapt to that, it's a helpful skill. I use an example of the Olympic hurdlers. Those hurdles are set specific spots around the track. Each runner doesn't have the the comfort of resetting those hurdles where it's convenient for them. They have to adapt, to learn the number of steps before the jump comes. And once they do that, they've adapted and mastered that. So that's kind of the way we need to be. We need to look at the obstacles, measure what we need to do to get over that and get through it, because they're going to be fast and furious in your career.
Now, you all sit here super confident, as if you never ever have a bad day ever in your work life.
Never.
Come on, share with me how you get out of a slump when you hit one. Everybody has a bad day.
I was going to say I'm scared to death. But, you know, I think at the end of the day, you have to have a model that every day that allows you to have some successes. You have to have a model in your business that allows you to make a couple of actions and feel successful, even when yesterday was horrible. And the days are going to be bad. You wouldn't know what the mountaintop was like if you never laid in the ditch. Okay? The days are going to be bad. But there are a lot more good ones if you are persistent and consistent. So.
Jesse?
You know, for me, it's you know, going back to passion. If you have passion in anything that you do, and you have a bad day, you learn how to deal with those bad days in a positive way. Because a lot of the things that happen to us, you know, is stored in our amygdala. And from that amygdala, you go, whoa, this has happened before, and that's not so good. But if you learn how to think positively and deal with it, write it down, deal with it, you've had a bad day, so what? Let's move on. Make it better.
Steve?
You know, someone told me once that you don't need to make every day count. And that seems so contrary to our work ethic. It seems like we have to constantly produce, and we want to be the most productive we can be. And sometimes you feel pressure to work 7 days a week to get to your goals. But sometimes I think it's legitimate to be able to just walk away if things aren't working and clear your head. Sometimes the best thing you could do is to get out of the office and do something that's important to you in your life. Because as much as we want to work and be successful, this business is not our life. Our life is our life, and our business is the means so that we can have the kind of life that we want. So for me, stepping out of the business a day or so and refreshing and refocusing on what's really important in my life, it rekindles the emotion to come back in and work hard.
Greg?
If I encounter a slump, it's typically because I'm not following my basic principles. And the fastest way out of a slump is to return to the basics. For me, that's going back and looking at my records. And I've learned along the way that top producers, they keep records of their records. And if you take the time to review where you've been previously and how you got there, and then just simply, well, it's not that simple, but I'll say it simply, reapply what you were doing when it was working correctly, you will climb your way out of the slump. Keep in mind that when you go mountain climbing or hiking, there's peaks and valleys. There is not a straight shot to the moon for any of us in this room, and we all will encounter slumps, which is why having my MDRT family is so darn important in my life, that when I'm having a slump, I can simply reach out to anybody out there that I know, and they will lift me up to the next level where I belong.
That's fabulous. Rob, ever a slump?
Yes, and having 4 children has taught myself, my wife and I, a lot. And one of the things I remember my wife saying is that when one of our daughters was in a slump, she said, you know, the best way to get out of a slump is to go help somebody else. A lot of times the problems that we face, you know, you've probably heard this saying, it's first world problems. They're really not that big a deal, and they'll pass. But if you can, what I usually do is I try and get focused on something else than my business. I'll go and sit at the beach and look at the sunset or something. But another way is to go and help somebody else.
And what I find amazing is, Rob, you and Steve have been playing in the band for 20 years together.
Yeah.
And that's a 20-year friendship. And this all happened because of your volunteering.
That's true, yeah. I met Steve at the meeting in Dallas. It was my second meeting. And I had been approached by another fellow who was putting the band together with Steve, and they asked me if I would play keyboards. And I remember walking in on that Sunday in Dallas before the main meeting, and we were going to be playing in front of 5,000 or 6,000 people, and we'd never met before, never played together. And yeah, we were But, you know, we pulled it
terrifying.
off. We pulled it off, and, you know, Steve and I have been playing together ever since, and it's been a great friendship. That's one of the things that I've got out of my volunteering, and especially with the music, is the relationship that I have with the guys in the band. We have a study group that every meeting we get together and we talk about our businesses, but also just the lifelong friendships that we've made. It's been awesome.
And Jesse, you shared a lovely story about volunteering.
Oh, yeah. There was one time when I wanted to carry the flags. And it was, you know, to be in the flag ceremony. And, you know, I'm from the island of Guam. So I wanted to carry the flag of Guam because I saw the flag of Guam that year. And I went over to this guy and I says, could you maybe exchange flags with me because you beat me to the flag of Guam? I said, are you from Guam? He goes, no. So I said, well, he goes, but I'd like to carry the flag of Guam. And I said, okay, go ahead. So the next best thing was the flag of Guatemala.
Great. I find the flag ceremony so emotional at the beginning of every meeting, and I think it was just the same here today. And a tremendous honour to carry the flag for your country. Now I'm going round for another quick round of one-liners. Tony Gordon, one of my heroes, was, you know, bigger doesn't mean more complicated. And he also taught me a great idea that when we're trying to present to a business client, and it's a slightly unique proposition, to just make it seem the most natural thing in the world with its normal business practice. Have you got anything like that from these meetings, just these little things that you bring in?
Actually, you know, I mentioned this earlier. Success is not owned. It's merely rented, and the rent is due every day. So work on it.
With every idea that comes along. Taylor, you've got one.
I would say just to explain, anything you can do to explain to your client or to show your client that you are deeply committed. Any issue of communication between you and that client will immediately go away. Because if the client knows that you're committed, then they know that you're serious. And that was a great thing that I felt that I learned, kind of a one-phrase explanation. Show that you're committed.
Anybody else?
I learned a technique, if you will, early on, and it was called the reverse helping role. And it was a simple concept. When you go to meet someone for the first time, let's say they're a business owner, or you even ask them about their occupation, you just simply ask a question. So, Caroline, how did you get into this business? Or how did you start this business? And it's amazing. They will talk for 25 minutes. You'll have a hard time getting in a word, but they tell you everything that you would ever try to ask them in a question format. And it's very revealing. I end up just taking notes during that whole period of time.
Yeah. And one final round, in terms of your market. Taylor, are you in the personal market or the business market?
I work primarily with business owners. In a place like Mississippi, which is like a lot of the rest of the world, I think, people with assets and issues also lots of times own a business. And we find a lot of fun in dealing with some of those more complicated issues. So the business marketplace is where we work.
Quick hit. Jesse?
Well, actually, I like working the pre-retirement and the post-retirement market.
Okay. Greg?
I work primarily with retirees.
Okay. Rob?
If they can fog a mirror. Just kidding. I also work in the pre-retirement and retirement and a lot of retirement income, guaranteed retirement income markets.
Okay. And Steve?
I've changed in the last few years. I used to be focused strictly on accumulation planning, but after the Great Recession, I realized that your portfolio is only as good as the income that it generates. So I find that more people are interested in distribution of their income at this point.
Well, thank you, guys. Now, I'm sure our audience would love you all to play again. Am I right?
Let's do it again.
Okay. So while you guys go and get ready, not you, Steve, stay here. I'm not sitting on this stage on my own. I got another question for you.
Okay.
You made a comment about your business being on the cloud, which I understand is a real move forward. Tell me how and why and what you've done there.
Well, a couple of years ago, I wanted to. I don't want to retire from my business. I want to continue to grow my business, but I wanted to live in a place that was over 2 hours away from where my wife and I had lived and raised our family. So I had begun the process of putting all of my business into a virtual office environment. And the first step was to go paperless in my office. So we've scanned all of our client files in, and they reside in the document storage facility on the cloud. And what that did is allow me to be completely mobile, because I can take my business with me virtually anywhere I go. And it also allowed me to incorporate other forms of technology to handle paper, communications with my clients. And so my big concern about that was, how will I continue to have these deep relationships that I've built my business on? And so I've tried to come up with an idea of what I call high tech, but also high touch. And ironically, what I've found out is that by being more technology driven and utilizing the kinds of tools that people have, that I've actually had more time for those personal relationships and those personal touch moments.
Okay, that's great.
Okay,
Off
I
you
gotta
go.
go. All right.